A win is a win is a win, and the Indiana Fever without Caitlin Clark go up against the Las Vegas Aces and last year's MVP, A'ja Wilson, and walk away with a W, 80-70. Sophie Cunningham has been hot to trot. Sophie Cunningham has been on fire.
What if I told you the Indiana Fever just pulled off one of the most shocking wins of the entire WNBA season without Caitlin Clark on the floor? Just days ago, analysts were already closing the book on Indiana's playoff hopes. The groin injury to Clark didn't just sideline their superstar, it seemed to drain the energy from an entire fan base. Headlines weren't just pessimistic, they were brutal. Clarkless Fever exposed, reality check in Indiana, and even whispers of the dreaded rebuild.
Obviously, there's no timeline for Caitlin, but what has she been able to do this last week? Is it mostly just rehab recovery, or has she been able to do any kinds of practice?
Yeah, no, I mean, we haven't really practiced since the couple days before All-Star break. So mostly rehab, shooting, and she's been with our athletic training team, and we've been preparing everybody else.
But then came July 24th. The Las Vegas Aces, last year's champions and home to MVP A'ja Wilson, came into Gainbridge Fieldhouse ready to dominate. With Caitlin in street clothes and the Aces licking their chops, it looked like a recipe for disaster. Except, something happened. The team that was supposed to collapse came alive, and what unfolded on that court sent shockwaves through the league. This wasn't just a win, it was a declaration. One that proved the Indiana Fever are not built around a single player, they're built to fight. So how did the underdogs pull it off? Let's break it all down.
Steph, Caitlin presents a challenge in itself for any opponent, but when she doesn't play, how is your team different?
I think our ball moves differently. What we run is different. She has such gravity, and her ability, not just to be the top of the scouting report, but her ability to make everybody better with the ball in her hands. So some of the things that we run are different when she's on the floor than when she's not. We run some more off-ball stuff. A lot less on-ball actions.
Before the ball even tipped, the narrative was already written. The Fever had just dropped back-to-back games against the New York Liberty. Confidence was shaken, momentum gone, and to make matters worse, their superstar, the face of the league, was suddenly out indefinitely. Caitlin Clark's groin injury wasn't just physical, it became symbolic. The entire basketball world started questioning Indiana's identity. Could they survive without her? Could they even compete? Social media flooded with doubts, sports shows debated their relevance, and fans braced for more pain.
Colson thought about the three. Cunningham feed inside. Boston spinning, turning, ducking, finding Mitchell, who splashes home a three.
You could feel it in the arena. This wasn't just about one injury. It was about pride, belief, and whether the team had anything left. Their record stood at an even 12-12. But those numbers didn't tell the whole story. They were slipping, and the vultures were circling. The whispers weren't subtle either. Take Clark out, and what's left? That question was everywhere. Online, on the court, and likely even in the players' minds. But that disrespect? It wasn't forgotten. Not by the coaching staff, not by the bench, and definitely not by the players who were about to remind the league exactly who they were.
Yeah, it's definitely a relief to know that there's nothing else going on, and no more damage. Now it's just being patient with the process. You can't have 5-minute lapses against great teams. They make you pay, and they bury you in those moments. I think we've seen, throughout the course of the season, where we've been really good for long stretches, and where we've weathered the ups and downs of a game, and we've got to be able to do that from a neutral mindset. We can't get into the playing conservative.
There's a dangerous kind of confidence that comes when you think your opponent is already broken. And that's exactly how the Las Vegas Aces walked into Indiana. Fresh off their championship high and stacked with Olympic talent, the Aces treated this game like a formality. Their body language during warm-ups said it all. Relaxed, smiling, unfazed. They knew Clark wasn't playing, and that was all the motivation they needed. For A'ja Wilson, this was personal. For 2 years, she's lived in Caitlin's media shadow, watching the younger star dominate headlines, sponsorships, and jersey sales.
Offense was not the issue for Indiana on Tuesday. They put up 84 points despite the absence of Caitlin Clark. Cunningham hit 5 threes, and it's her first tonight. Stay with Indiana.
This was supposed to be her moment to silence the hype, her chance to prove that MVPs win games, not just attention. The Aces wanted to send a message. This is what happens when the cameras are gone. But what they didn't realize was that the cameras may have shifted focus, but the fire inside the Fever had never been stronger. They weren't coming to survive. They were coming to fight.
Playing for Sophie Cunningham to start again tonight, or what's your...
Yes.
What is it about her, I guess, at the start of a game that you like having her in the lineup?
Another ball handler, another player who can create shots for her teammates, as well as stretch the floor. A really good defensive rebounder as well. We had at times really struggled from a defensive rebounding standpoint, so like that as well. And her energy.
The pressure wasn't just on the players. Coach Stephanie White had a decision to make, and she made it loud and clear. She wasn't going to change everything just because Clark was gone. No panic rotations, no safe plays. She doubled down on trust. Kelsey Mitchell, the team's veteran guard, had been under fire all season for her inconsistency. Some nights she looked like a star, and others she vanished. But White knew something the critics didn't. She saw what Mitchell was capable of when her back was against the wall. Early in the game, the results were ugly. Mitchell couldn't find her rhythm. Missed shots piled up. The crowd grew restless. Anyone else would have benched her, but White pulled her aside, looked her in the eye, and said, "Let it fly. It's going to fall." That one sentence lit the match. It wasn't just encouragement, it was belief. And belief, especially in moments of doubt, is everything.
Well, first of all, I started off with our defense. Our defense to get our offense going, and that's how we maintain games like that. We don't rely on our offense a lot. We rely on our defense to get when our defense is going, our offense is going. So we limited Vegas to one shot, and that's how we got open shots for the shooters inside the paint and everything.
Kelsey Mitchell had a choice: sink under the pressure or rise into the moment. Through 3 quarters, it looked like the critics might be right. Her shots weren't falling. Her body language screamed frustration, but something shifted. After that timeout conversation, Mitchell came out a different player. She didn't just play, she took over. In the 4th quarter, when every possession mattered, she poured in 9 crucial points, finishing the night with 21 total. But it wasn't just scoring. She dished out 4 assists, tied for the most on the team, and began orchestrating the offense like a true floor general. Her vision improved, her movement sharpened, and suddenly the Aces couldn't stop her. Each drive, each jumper was a punchback at every doubter who questioned whether she could lead. And the best part? She wasn't screaming or flexing, she just let her game speak. In a night full of heroes, Mitchell reminded everyone that leadership isn't about stats, it's about timing. And when the moment came, she was ready. While the world was watching Mitchell rise, someone else was setting the court on fire. Quietly, efficiently, and devastatingly. Sophie Cunningham isn't the loudest voice in the room, but her game is starting to scream. Heading into this matchup, she had already been torching defenses, averaging nearly 14 points a game and leading the league in 3-point percentage during July. Against the Aces, she stayed red hot, 3 of 4 from deep, 15 points in total. But these weren't just open shots, they were momentum killers. Every time Vegas made a push, Sophie answered with a dagger. You could feel it. Her shots weren't just points, they were statements. The kind of threes that ripped the energy from an opponent's huddle. Coach White had moved her into the starting lineup for her energy, shooting and rebounding. And that decision looked genius now. Some fans are even calling her the early favorite for 6th Player of the Year. And honestly, who's arguing? With the game on the line and the Aces breathing down their necks, the Fever needed one more moment, something to shut the door completely, and Aari McDonald delivered. Up 5 with under a minute left, the shot clock ticking down, and the entire arena holding its breath, Aari stepped back and launched a deep 3 with fearless confidence. Swish! That shot didn't just extend the lead, it crushed Vegas' spirit. It was the kill shot, the final dagger in a battle that had turned into a war. And here's the kicker. That was her only shot attempt of the 4th quarter. Talk about choosing your moment. Aari finished the game 3 for 3 from beyond the arc with 9 points, 4 assists, and 2 steals. She didn't just play her role, she owned it. That one 3-pointer secured more than just the win. It sealed the season tiebreaker against the Aces and reminded everyone that this team has clutch in its DNA. While others made headlines, Natasha Howard built the foundation. Her box score might say 18 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 steals, but the impact went far beyond numbers. She was everywhere. Cleaning the glass, rotating on defense, setting hard screens, diving for loose balls, she did the dirty work. And when it was all over, she said it simply, "Our defense gets our offense going." It wasn't a slogan, it was the blueprint. Vegas came in expecting a shootout. Instead, they got smothered. Howard set the tone early, made life miserable for A'ja Wilson in the paint, and never let her team lose focus. She may not have hit the highlight shot, but without her, none of it happens. In the chaos of comeback runs and crowd roars, Howard was the calm, the engine behind the scenes who held everything together. And through all of it, one voice never stopped encouraging from the bench: Caitlin Clark. Even sidelined, even in pain, she was locked in. Clapping, shouting, jumping, celebrating like it was her own game. You could see her energy infecting the team. When McDonald hit that clutch 3, Clark leaped out of her seat, arms raised, eyes wide. That's leadership. That's presence. It would have been easy for her to check out, to protect her injury in silence. But instead, she leaned in and became the loudest supporter in the building. This team isn't just built around her talent, it's powered by her fire. This wasn't just another W in the standings. It was a season-defining moment. The Fever improved to 13-12 and climbed to 6th in the playoff race. More importantly, they now hold the season tiebreaker over the defending champions. That's not just bragging rights, that's playoff leverage. And they did it all without their biggest name on the court. That's what makes this game so powerful. The Fever didn't just survive without Clark, they evolved, they grew. They proved that this isn't a one-woman show. This is a team, a hungry, dangerous, underestimated team that just put the entire league on notice. Caitlin Clark will be back, and when she returns, she won't be joining a team trying to stay afloat. She'll be joining a squad that just proved it can beat anyone, anywhere without her. Think about that. When a team wins without its superstar, it doesn't make the star less important. It makes the team more complete. Mitchell is hitting her stride. Cunningham is lighting it up. McDonald is fearless. Howard is dominant. The Fever are peaking at the perfect time, and they're doing it together. So when Clark is healthy again, the WNBA better watch out, because this group isn't just trying to make the playoffs. They're looking to rewrite the story entirely. Sometimes it only takes one moment to shift the energy of an entire arena, and that moment came when Aari McDonald's shot fell through the net. For the first time all night, Gainbridge Fieldhouse wasn't just hopeful, it was electric. You could feel the fans sit up straighter, clap louder, shout with real belief again. The nervous murmurs were gone. This wasn't about survival anymore. This was domination. For a fan base that had endured so many painful losses, so many nights where things fell apart late, this was finally the opposite. This was a win they could feel. McDonald's 3 didn't just give the Fever a safe lead, it gave the crowd permission to believe. And once the fans locked in, the players fed off it like fuel. Every defensive stop that followed, every rebound ripped down, felt like a thunderclap. It was a shared moment between the team and the city, a silent agreement. We're not going back to being doubted. Not tonight, not ever again. And that emotional wave carried Indiana all the way to the final buzzer. The Aces aren't used to being in this position. They're the reigning champions. They walk into games with swagger, not doubt. But somewhere between Sophie's barrage of threes and Kelsey's late-game takeover, something changed. Their body language shifted. Heads dropped, hands went to hips. Timeouts came with more panic than purpose. A'ja Wilson, who came into this game ready to dominate a Clarkless squad, suddenly found herself smothered, frustrated, and surprisingly quiet. You could see it. The Aces weren't just losing on the scoreboard. They were losing the mental battle. Indiana's intensity was overwhelming. The physicality ramped up. The defensive rotations were relentless. Every possession started to feel like a trap. For the first time all season, Vegas looked human. And not just human, vulnerable. That's not something anyone expected to say this late in the year, but that's exactly what Indiana did. They made the champions look ordinary. And in doing so, the Fever sent a loud and clear message. The throne isn't safe anymore. Kelsey Mitchell's stat line was impressive, sure. 21 points, clutch shots, and key assists. But what truly stood out wasn't in the box score. It was her body language, her presence, the way she spoke in the huddles, the way she pulled teammates aside after mistakes, the way she calmed everyone down when Vegas made mini runs. For years, Mitchell was seen as a talented scorer but inconsistent when it came to leadership. Not anymore. This game changed everything. She didn't just score when it mattered, she led. With Caitlin Clark out, there was a leadership vacuum that could have left the team spiraling. Instead, Mitchell stepped in and owned it. And the team responded. Players like Colson, Smith, and Boston moved with more confidence. They fed off Mitchell's poise. Coach White didn't have to scream or overcorrect because Mitchell had taken command. And that's the kind of shift that changes a team's ceiling. Because when your veteran plays with purpose and belief, everyone else follows. Mitchell didn't just play well. She showed the WNBA that she's more than just a shooter. She's a true leader. This game wasn't just about individual performances. It was the birth of something bigger, a complete identity. One rooted in grit, teamwork, and unselfish execution. The Fever didn't win this game because one player went off. They won because everyone bought in. The spacing was crisp, the screens were hard, the defense was connected. Whether it was Boston battling in the post, Smith diving for loose balls, or Lexi Hull drawing charges, the effort was everywhere. They played like a team that knew their roles and trusted each other to fill in the gaps. And that's something the Fever haven't consistently had in years. It's easy to rely on stars. It's harder to build systems that work without them. But Indiana just proved they can. This was a team win in the purest form. 5 players in double figures, multiple contributors off the bench, and a defensive game plan that took down champions. If you're an opposing coach watching this film, one thing is clear. The Fever finally have an identity, and it's dangerous. You don't always realize the importance of a game until long after the final buzzer. But this one? Everyone in that building knew it instantly. This wasn't just game 25 of the season. It wasn't just a win to break a losing streak. It was a pivot point, a turning of the tide. This was the moment when the Fever stopped being the team with Clark and became the team that belongs. The playoff race is heating up, and wins like this, especially against a top-tier rival like Vegas, are golden. But more than standings, this game changed perception. From doubted to dangerous, from surviving to thriving. The kind of game that coaches reference in postseasons. The kind of win that gives young players belief and veterans validation. And the kind of performance that fans remember for years. Not because of who played, but because of how they played. Indiana didn't just beat Vegas. They earned the respect of the entire WNBA. So, to everyone who said the Fever were done, maybe it's time to rethink that. They didn't just win a game. They changed the tone of the season. With Mitchell's leadership, Cunningham's breakout, and a bench that's rising to the challenge, Indiana looks like a real threat. And with Clark's return on the horizon, the ceiling only gets higher. The 80-70 win over Las Vegas wasn't just about redemption. It was about resilience, belief, and proving that greatness doesn't rely on one name. It rises from many. If you're fired up like we are, comment Red Hot Sophie below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because this season is just getting started. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next.